Of ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa's address at the party's 110th anniversary. Of course, he's highlighted 5 priorities that they will be focusing on over the next year. Among the list is renewal and rebuilding of the party. He's also talked tough against ill discipline, corruption, and the multiple factions that exist in the organization. Let's take you now to Professor Lesiba Teffo to unpack that statement. Professor Teffo, before we get into the January 8th statement, certainly it's worth noting that the EFF seems to have been very strategic. Of course, a couple of years back, January 8th would have been all about the ANC, but it's not the case anymore.
I find it interesting what the rationale for this is, that almost every time the EFF would want to go toe-to-toe in cases of this nature with the ANC. Because I remember attending 2 of their rallies, and there have always been these coincidence. I haven't inquired from them exactly what the strategy is, but maybe they're saying we are as equal as we can be, and the SABC in particular has to listen to us and has to cover us. There is some political game that is being played, perhaps above me for now.
All right. Let's get then into the January 8th statement of Party President Cyril Ramaphosa. Perhaps your own reflections. Of course, there's a lot for us to talk about, but I just want to hear your general reflections, having observed what unfolded in Polokwane today, and perhaps also juxtaposing it against the last couple of days. I was saying to Angelo Fick earlier, Polokwane should have been easy ground. You know, it should have been smooth sailing, and yet one gets the impression of an ANC and a president that's being kept on their toes, not really fully knowing what to expect.
You know, sometimes they give you information that inadvertently, perhaps that is the word, they inadvertently give you information that they later regret. That they will tell you that there is security threat to the president, and Kyla would come back to say, no, there is a misunderstanding, that is not that. Then I hear my president say, the ANC is not on its knees. Who said it is? Safe to say, unless you sense it is, and you want to at least spin that fact, then you are also almost selling yourself out. That's one, too. The second one comes from Blade and Mandashe. They say, Huangka. There's stench somewhere. We can sense, right, that the writing is on the wall. And those who want to be biblical might even say, mene tackle ufarsen. I'm glad to hear this coming from the leadership. For some time, we've been telling them that your conduct certainly will bring untold pain sooner than later, perhaps much earlier than your former president had anticipated. And they are saying that to us sometimes without saying it. But there are 2 positives that I really must credit the president for, and I want to zoom on that one. Namely, passionate talk about vaccination and the need for mandatory vaccination. Remember, vaccinations are meant not for Ramaphosa, but meant for us all. And I would hope and trust that the detractors, the antis like Muruti Meshwe, will take heart and understand that the less literate are more inclined to listen to them. And we know the truth. We have to, for our own good and for the good of those with whom we live. And I think he spoke from the heart, and I was really pleased and impressed by that. There is one point too, Kathy, that he spoke about, but not at length, but I'm glad he did. The question of migration, some of us have been saying to them, unless you deal with this, it will soon come back to haunt you. And indeed, 2 people, one is called Herman Mashaba, another one is called Mackenzie, right? They campaigned on the ticket, and they are not xenophobic, and they are not anti-foreigners. They say, as the protocols of the United Nations, right? Human Rights Commission for Refugees Act of 1951, South African Act 130 of 1998, It's about the refugees' domestication of the international laws. So if you come to South Africa as per the local laws and international laws, you're welcome. But it cannot be a free-for-all. And I said it then, and I'm willing to repeat myself. With all the goodwill under the sun, South Africa's shoulders are brittle, are not strong enough to shoulder all the continent. And I'm glad the president spoke to this, because now Minister Motsoaledi is being isolated and being targeted as if he is the one, whereas it is South African state that pronounced in December, here and no further. Now we must act and act firmly.
One of the things that again stands out is the fact that there are all these important issues that South Africa needs to be focusing on, and particularly the ANC, given the fact that it still enjoys the majority of support in this country. And yet in the same breath, there seem to be these distractions. So you talk about the statement made earlier by some of the leaders of smelling a rat. Ultimately, that says, it suggests to somebody like myself that whatever real work needs to be done will not fully have the attention of the leadership, because they're constantly having to look behind their backs to see what some of their comrades are getting up to.
That is a sad reality that they must own up to. And I think it is a pity for Ramaphosa that he really didn't enjoy, if you may use the word, his presidency. Because from the onset, he was besieged. And he keeps watching his back, left, right, and center. And again, there is a concession that, the fault is not with the stars that the ANC is in trouble. The fault is with the ANC itself. Well, it is when you become that frank, sometimes you may find appropriate solutions to deal with your problems. Because yesterday, they were absolutely in denial. Even yesterday morning, I heard Zinuki Zikalala saying there is no division, there is no disunity. If you are not frank, and then you are even saying to those who are working against you that maybe you don't see exactly what they are doing. And I must also concede that Blade said to me and you that there is a connection between what transpired in July, call it revolution or insurrection, and the banning of or the banning or touching of parliament. And I want to take it further. Surely, even an average man can tell you that the perpetual outages and banning of the substations are not accidental. Certainly they are. I'm no expert, but they lend themselves to the fact that the internal wrangling within the ruling party are themselves responsible for the perpetual outages. And I'm glad somebody in the caliber of Blade Nzimande is making that connection and boldly say, yes, it has to do with us, it has to do with our internal factions, and we can no longer lie to the people and say there is a third force.
Ultimately, some of the incidents that you have pointed to speak to sabotage of the state, and yet it's stemming from divisions within parts of the ANC. What does that mean for South Africa? What kind of year should we realistically anticipate, given the fact that it's also such a big year for the ANC?
They are in a perpetual conflict for positions and leadership. They cannot concentrate on running the country, on renewal or rebuilding the party. Because right now, they have already pronounced, people have already nailed their colors to the mast. I'm available, or my ex must be the one who's the president or the deputy. So, yeah, I mean, yesterday, then already the campaign began. And a week before, I had at least a party, a branch in Limpopo and Beggarsport or so, Beggarsport, who said Patrice Motsepe, if I'm not wrong, should also be the run for the presidency. So the campaign have started, and I find it a little unfair when people say Mahashule must not campaign. Why should others campaign and he shouldn't campaign? I hold no brief for him, but what is good for the goose must be also good for the gander. And I'm saying, in response to your question and to the people of South Africa, the ANC has served us well. His time is out. they must just take a break to go and cleanse themselves. They can come back after 5 years or more, but for as long as they continue as they do, they are at least inflicting immortal harm to the soul of the once glorious movement.
Professor Teffo, just lastly, you talk about the fact that this is the end for the ANC. One gets a sense that there are some in the organization who are willing to take this country down with them.
Undoubtedly. It is not, if it is not our faction, then we would rather take it down. Hence, what you and I alluded to earlier on. I mean, it is not the opposition that is making it difficult for President Ramaphosa to run the country. It is his own. And he also admitted that much. And he has said that much today in Polokwane, that the enemy is within us. We could do better. And as an individual, I said it then, I can repeat even today. Had he been elected by the people of South Africa, Ramaphosa would have made a good president. But as long as he operates within the framework of the so-called tripartite alliance, either him or any other person, as long as you operate within that framework, I'm sorry, you are not going to serve South Africa better. Hence, the thinking that perhaps a new mix of political actors should come on board 2024, even if the ANC is there, but in a less dominant role or position.
Professor Lesiba Teffo, let's leave it there for this afternoon.